Okay, time's running fast. Welcome everybody to our first Friday after our first conference party on a Thursday evening. So, who's been having his last drink after 3:30? Anyone? Ah, very good, very good. So I guess we are brilliantly prepared for a hangover breakfast. As for rules, I think it's okay for everyone if you leave your seat for a moment and grab yourself something to eat or to drink during the panel. That'll be fine. And we'll be having something very funky and flashy to begin with. We'll be having a competition. Not between us, but the panelists. Who's been wondering about something while entering the room? Anyone saw something? Arne? Yeah? Ah, yeah, a pinata. So, what's the pinata all about? Maybe our host from P3 on P3 stage wants to say something about the pinata and explain why that's hanging there.
Yes. So due to the fact that this is a hangover breakfast, we thought the competition might be to do now a little alcohol test in between all the panel. And yeah, who has alcohol in his blood or the most alcohol in his blood needs to begin our panel to start with to kill this piñata.
Awesome.
And if nobody has alcohol, then we will, or the audience will decide who have to do it.
Great.
We can also drink now.
Start drinking.
Yeah,
Grab
if
champagne.
anyone's up for some champagne, we have some, so just come forward. And yeah, we can just start the alcohol testing, I think. And we can also start with the panel. So we've got 4 awesome panelists. We've got Niklas and Thomas of P3. So welcome home on your stage. Here's Victor, my co-moderator. Rudi from Absolute Software, Absolute Reality. Funny thing about machine learning and Rudi, because Rudi is kind of a cyborgish mixture between machine and human. While we are having 12 minutes talks in his office, he tends to keep working in his office. So part machine, part human. Rudi? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And we have Phanthian, who is responsible of very big machines in the harbor, but not the machines themselves, of course, but she's head of digital and business transformation. So once more, what Ollie said in his opening speech yesterday, right outside of the machine room of digitization. And yeah, we'll be having a blast, and we'll learn a lot about machine learning and data. And we'd like to start with a short statement by every one of you. What is your catch about machine learning? And of course, ladies first. So, Phanthian, a few short words as a start about machine learning and data.
So I think everyone. So cheers. So first of all, thank you very much that I have an opportunity to join the panel. With the machine learning and the data in the port of Hamburg, we have been already exploring for a year or more to see how the data-driven decision-making could be really done in reality. Because I think that most of the companies today are still make their decisions on the traditional way, or even from the blood of fire in their stomach. and we believe that, especially for the port, once that we have the better data situations and the data management also in the port, we could help the stakeholders and also the operators in the port to facilitate their business, in the sense that we provide better based information for their decision making itself. That's why we are working on that, on the data management, on the we have tried already some of the machine learning, and really to see how we can predict some unknown things.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Rudy. We are working with machine learning for several years, and we are mostly interested in building intelligent robots. And for this, we would like to have more data. So when we have the discussion, if Alexa is recording stuff, I think, oh, this would be so cool. I know it's totally uncool. My wife would kill me for this. But for the aspect of how to train a robot, it would be great to have all this data. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Thomas. For the start, and coming to your question, I'd like to share one example of transformation which was impacting our business in terms of data. One part of our business is telecommunication and the measurement of the performance of telco networks. So to compare which company has the best network here in Germany, Vodafone against Telekom, for example. And we started that business in 1999 when E Plus was coming on the market, and they said, okay, we have the best coverage all over Germany. The problem was, yes, the coverage was not too bad, but most of the users had only one bar, so the quality of the voice was very bad. And we started to do that business with cars. So we had cars with a computer in the back, and these computers were sending data up in the air and were checking the feedback. And out of that, we were able to do the coverage of a performance. And then smartphones came, and since then, these car testers were basically changing their job due to the fact that you are able to measure now the performance also with the smartphone itself. So in the meantime, we have access to around 70 million users worldwide, testing in an anonymous way the performance of their smartphones. And that was a big transformation, especially in the last 3-4 years, because we decreased the car testers or transformed their job in a way to not drive anymore the cars, but to handle data. And that was a big transformation for us. And I think that many of our customers and companies are in that transformation as well, and it's a huge challenge.
Hi, so Nicholas, and very nice to be here. I think we live in a world of data. Everything is data. We have temperature in the air. We measure everything nowadays. Businesses have a lot of data. They fill out reports. They have been filling out reports for decades. And what is happening is that those reports, they just file them away and forget them for the most cases. Only if something happens, you look at it and say, oh, in this report we could have seen, okay, everything was to be doomed. Now we finally have, due to machine learning, due to the new computing power we possess, due to new inventions like deep learning, we finally have the opportunity to make use of that data. And I think that's what impacts businesses all over the world.
Okay, I have a kind of critical question right now for all of you, because all of you are introducing your vision or your view on machine learning right now, but all of you were talking about your business, but how does machine learning impact me as a person? Because people get really transparent when you have all the data of us. So how does machine learning support me as a person, as an individual, and not just your bank account?
Well, let's take your bank account as an example, because I think that's something that you might have all noticed. Just yesterday, I received an SMS from my bank that said, "Okay, please pay attention. One of the subtractions from my bank account that was always 20 euros is now 39 euros. Okay, what happened? Vodafone increased the basically my rates. That was to be expected because it was 1 year and the rates went up. Okay, that was in my contract, but it could have gone unnoticed if not for my bank to notice me. And what is happening here? It's not some clerk sitting somewhere looking at the numbers in my bank account. It's machine learning, learning the model behind how my bank account is functioning. And now we finally have the opportunity to counter that. And that's something that directly impacts me as a citizen.
And I think your question is a very good one. I think there's no black and white thing to say having by machine learning an impact on the bank account is a bad thing. Yeah, I think there will be an impact on the bank accounts of many people, but the question is how do we deal with it as a society as well? I think there will be a change. There will be a change of jobs. Some jobs which exists today might not exist anymore in some years, and we have to deal as a society in a very responsible way with that. Because that transformation will be so fast that it will be faster than the change of a generation who might be born in a non-digital world and might die in a digital world. And that is something we have to deal with in a very responsible way.
What was the question?
How does machine learning support me as an individual and not just your bank account? Like you're working for several years in the business right now, and you have seen also all the changes this business made.
Okay, Victor. From my perspective, it's always like this. I use a lot of free software from companies, from big companies, and they put a lot of effort and money into the software that I'm using for free. So, and if I am a company and I'm doing this, I need to earn money to pay my guys. So, and I do not always understand when the people talking about my privacy data and stuff like this, because I'm always using a lot of free software, and in my mind, in my world, it is like this: I have to pay for this, and I don't have. If I don't pay with money, I pay with my data. So, from my perspective, it's totally fine.
But then we have another question, like how valuable is data today? Because like I talked to a guy from the telecom, from T-Mobile just 2 weeks ago, and he said like data is the new oil. It's it's like really valuable, and they really sell also a lot of data to sub companies. So do I pay more when I pay with data, or would it be like cheaper for me if I would just pay money?
I think it's difficult to estimate because one company is collecting the data, selling this data in raw format to other companies, and the other companies make some evaluation of the data, and then they sell this data. So it's not possible to estimate how valuable your personal data are. And your personal data is not really important. Only the mass of personal data is important, because then you can make predictions and clustering data for people and stuff like this. So your personal data, it's not much worth.
Also data.
Yeah, also data.
Also data.
Yeah, I think you won it, Rudy.
No, thanks.
Yeah, we've got a very clear winner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rudy, for taking the hangover breakfast seriously.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Thank you. Applause in between for Rudy. That's effort.
Actually, it's unfair competitions because I'm not allowed to drink any alcohol. So it's.
Okay, we repeat it on the weekend, and then we will see.
So coming back to your questions on the yes, I think it's this individual trade of decisions that everyone that who would like also to do some convenient stuff. I say. If you see just from our smartphone already, that your smartphone is getting smarter and smarter every day, and you are training them every day by using it. And we are living in the convenient world, I would say, and we are loving that more and more today. I would have to say that sometimes I really feel surprised when my smartphone suggests me something that I say, oh yeah, I would like to do it, and I do it. And this is also triggering my understanding of how much of data, how much privacies I would like to give away out of my hand. And this is my own decision. So everyone has to think about how individuals would like to pay with the data, having paid back by the convenience of products, convenience of services. And this is, I think, it is quite a fair deal if we say, okay, you give me a service, I pay you with the data. On the other hand, when we are talking about the selling of data to third party, so I think we need at that point more ethical practices, because right now we know that many of the companies having sold our data without our knowledge, and that is the problem area that I see in the business today, and either we look up. I don't know how many people when you install your app in your smartphone, how many people are reading terms and service before push the button yes install.
No one. Really?
Yeah, and that is actually your decision making if you would like to be really careful on your data or not.
But is it really my decision? Like, if everybody is using the same app, like everybody's using Facebook or WhatsApp to communicate, and I don't use it, is it then really my decision, or is it just like group
It's
pressure?
your decision. I have still some friends who are not using Facebook because they say, okay, it's not worth that I'm giving away my data. I would like to be private, and I have also many people who have been Facebook users before, and now they are leaving Facebook because I say, oh, I'm scared. They are knowing too much about me. So I think that's just a trade-off. You have to know about yourself, what you want, and then make your own decision. And no one could make for you this decision.
So speaking of the trade, where does that take us internationally? Because when we look at data and machine learning, in a talk yesterday, one speaker said the output is always due to the input, to the mass of data you put in, the quality of data. And when we look at China, for example, there's a lot more data companies can use. And that might bring them a little bit further than here in Europe, or maybe also the US. So what's your view on the threat, if one might call it like that, in comparison China, Europe, China, Germany?
So I think it's a big challenge currently for Europe. Huh? So because we are basically competing with two systems and platforms. One data platform in more coming from China, which is politically driven, and one data platform coming from the US, which is driven by big platform companies. And Europe currently has no real answer for this. And I don't have an answer for your question, and maybe this is the problem.
In the US, we have 5 big companies dealing with big data. In China, we have at least 3, 4, 5. I don't know how many big companies. In Europe, we have, I don't know any company doing big data stuff in this size. And I don't think that we have a good chance to compete against China or the US without a big company doing this stuff. And the second thing I'm really sad about is that we do very strong regulate our Datenschutzverordnung, tralala. I understand this from a certain point of view, but we have always think about that we are an economic area. The European area has to compete against the other economic markets. And if we don't, if you always say, okay, we have to regulate things and stuff, and that's always fine, I understand this, but I do not really like the idea because the other economic areas don't have this regulation. They can make a lot of things. They can experiment with the data. We cannot do this because we don't have access to the data, and we don't have the chance to build a big company when we don't have access to the data. So I'm not, yes, I'm very sad about this, and it's not good for us, for the European countries, when we want to compete against the others.
So you think the next step we should go is to make all the data accessible for all the companies that they can also grow and be a competitor to China and the US?
If we make access to all the people here in Europe, then the other states can have also access to this data. So I don't have the answer, but I don't feel good with the Datenschutzverordnung. So because with this one, this is not fair against our competitors.
Maybe I think we have to look a little bit beyond that. If we do have the same conditions like in China or in the US, I'm really in doubt if the European citizens are going along with that. And that is not only the issues of the technological driven development, it is also societal development. I would like maybe just to provocate on that. If the European citizens have the same mentalities or have this mentality of giving away the access of my own data to the others, like the U.S. citizens or like the Chinese citizens. I just talked to Frank Feilau from Fujitsu just this morning, and we were talking about, you know that the Chinese citizens, they don't care if the state is going to know about them. 80% of the whole Chinese citizens. And that is a huge amount. And if you are asking the people who in this room, who would like to have the same situation like in China, please hand up.
So I think I think okay, I saw it. Nobody wants the same situation in China, but at the same time, especially in Germany, we have the tendency to just say no to everything. We just say no, we don't want it, and I think that's equally not the solution. We don't want capitalistic Wild West out there. We don't want Chinese state-driven data science. But it's also no solution to just say no. And if you're just saying no, yes, that's a decision you can make, but I think it's the wrong decision, especially if you're looking at the upsides. And especially if you're looking at the problem with just saying no. Just saying no means that a lot of businesses, a lot of people will do it, but through the back door and not out in the open. And that's a very dangerous development that we have right now.
1985 was a novel about government knows everything about us. Now we are 2019, and the big companies knows far a lot more about us. I do not really care if they know about me in person. I do not like that someone of you knows about me like in person. But in the big masses of data, it's totally okay for me. So, but the point for me is China has all the data, they collect all the data, and I do not really care if we would have something like this here in Europe. But what for me is important in the economic way, they can collect a lot of data, they can use the data, they can develop new algorithms to make business about it. And we always, as Lucas said, we don't do this, we say no, 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 and at the end I'm afraid that we don't have anything, and then it's bad for our economic state.
I think the European companies has to really think about their survival strategies in the futures if they would like to really compete in the area of AI with China or with the US, if we have different preconditions of doing business. And I believe, and I still believe that the European countries, especially Germany, where many of innovation has been already born here, that the German will be probably the one who could do something else, maybe in the leader of something else, which is not AI. Because the AI, I think we are much behind right now what the development in China is. And even the US is already behind Chinese, even for the 5G. And, and that is already a signal. If you can not run fast, like the first runner in the front row, maybe you have to change your strategy, your tactic, to be faster in some other different area.
Okay, I have a short question to you, Rudi. You mentioned, yeah, like the Chinese companies have more data, but if you would make all the data in Europe accessible, then also the Chinese companies would have our data. Wouldn't it be a strategy if we just make the European data accessible to European companies who are regulated by the EU?
I have no bad idea. Bad idea. Technically, it's not possible to restrict it to restrict it like this. So if you give European companies access to this data, you automatically give access to the other companies in China and the US.
You ask for the why. So I think it's a good. I think it's a question not of the why. I think it would be good to have this, but the question is it realistic in the current state we are? I think we are coming. One trap we have out of an economical point of view is that we are still benefiting a lot from the past. So we've been very successful from the past, and that's a big trap for the future. And that's something where I think the Americans, but partially also China, of course, with this growth strategy China is in, is a benefit for the behavior of the system. And then we are coming from a very valuable, to my opinion, democratic system. Which is good, but which is in some aspects maybe too slow in comparison to what the change we are in. And I'm not saying that the answer of changing to a Chinese system, which is very centralized and also has elements which are not democratic, is the right answer. Therefore, I'm coming really back. So that's the dilemma of we are currently in a situation where we don't have a clear answer to that. So the vision of having European data in a platform which is in Europe is there. I also do not agree to what you say that the behavior of how to deal with data in between Europe and American. I think it's not so different. The problem is that the data we are providing is not in Europe because it's in the platforms which are currently in the US.
I'd like to go back to a point you just made in terms of, okay, let's just give up, more or less. We might already...
I did say that we have to give up, but we have to be making new we have to see where we are good at and where we have the chance to win.
That's where I wanted to go. So do you have a specific idea, or any of you, what might be next? Because even at this conference here, AI is all over the place, machine learning is all over the place. You hear it a lot. So China are ahead when it comes to this, the US are ahead. And if you say, okay, we should think about something else, so what could we do after all these SMEs and automotive and so on?
So I think there is one thing we have to differentiate. So there is this platform-driven data management, which is B2C driven, such as Facebook is. So all that data which belong to us, but there is also the industry. So there is always a front end and a back end. And a big advantage the US guys have is that they are really thinking in these front ends. So that's not a way of thinking of European companies, especially medium-sized German companies. So they are very proud of their competencies, which are really going deep into the vertical of technical knowledge, of the building of machines and so on. What I recognize here is that the industry is not ready to think in these front ends, but I think it's a big chance if our industry would agree or would accept the benefit of such front end driven business models. Then I think we could be really in a competitive advantage because the back end is there. And it's not only about the data access, it's also about, okay, what do you do with that data in the verticals? And I think here we have some elements where we have big advantages, but we are not playing it consistently in the front end. And I think due to two different reasons. One is a political one, so it's a very regional and small silo-oriented strategy. I'm part of many political expert rounds in the government of economy, for example, and here, as soon as it going into the technical perspective of what the deal with data is, it's very silent, and I agree completely to Rudy, as soon as it's going into the area of data protection, everybody has to say something, and this is something we have to change. We are really good in the verticals, but we need to combine it better in the front end on how to deal the business, how to create the channels of doing business. And if we combine that in a better way, I think we are in a good position. But we are not doing it yet.
I want also say something about this. When we talk to startups in the last 15 years, it was always like this. Someone has an idea, then he try to get some money, and maybe he get 50,000 euros. So what we have in the United States or in other countries, there's a lot of money, and there are a lot of guys make money with technology. Here we have the Aldi guys and Lidl guys and blah 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 guys. They make money with old economy stuff. They have totally no idea what's going on. If you talk to some people about future from the old economy, you think, oh, what's going on? We understand why nothing will happen because they have totally no idea what's going on, and they have totally no idea about business and technology. So if we don't have a really competitive investment in companies and startups which doing high technology, we will never compete. Because we have here in Germany and in Europe a little bit a discussion forum, how we discuss a little bit how we can make it better. But what we need is disruptive companies who get money and who will earn money to invest money and to have the same stand as in the United States. Google, Microsoft, etc., etc. They earn a lot of money. They put the money they get in part in Forschung und Entwicklung to get more money, and this is what we need here. Not only we have to discuss about blah blah blah. We need strong companies, and we have to develop strong companies, and this means that we invest a lot of money in startups. Most of the startups won't survive, but this is what happens in other areas of the world. That there will be big investments in ideas. Most of them fail, but a few of them survive, and they earn a lot of money, and this is what we need. We need companies which earns a lot of money to invest a lot of money into people, technology, and infrastructure. So, and we don't make it when we say, okay, we have to regulate this with the EU and stuff like this and make a discussion forum out of this. Thank you.
So I would like just to add what you said about the front end of the platforms. Right now, I've been working like 3-4 years in a think tank group of the European Commissions, together with 150 experts around Europe, and we are setting up a kind of a new construct for collaborations among the platforms, service providers, among the different stakeholders to really enhance these kind of the service deliveries to the end consumers in the supply chains and logistics. And because we know that the increasing demand of the consumer about the supply chain visibilities has been increased, and we would like also that the industry and the whole industry, not just only like one sector, has an answer for that. And that's why we have formed up this forum to be a think tank group and to set up a framework how we can allow the people to work together from the governance points of view and also from the technical point of view. Because nowadays, who are struggling with the digitalization? These are most of the time the small companies. I know many of the companies in the Hamburg port where they are still fax machine. So if you, and this fax machine is in operation and it scared me. And we would like to change this situation, that they become digital, that they could really facilitate also in the supply chain process and not blocking the flows of the physical goods and also the information flows. And that is where I think everyone are now thinking differently. It takes time because you need a mindset change of the companies. And this is not just only the technical issues, but it's really the cultural change issues that we have been doing business as it is. And it was convenient, it was comfortable for everyone. And right now we are in a transitional process. And I think that many of us have been awakened already. And I see from the working group that I'm leading also, that the people change really their mind, that they have to collaborate. Otherwise they will not be surviving after 10 years maybe. And these are big companies, DHL, Kühnenagel, and so on. And they have to open up a little bit from the business they are doing. I mean, in logistics, it's very, very common that everyone is, this is mine, this is yours, and my data, you don't get it. And now we are talking only data sharing. So it's a totally new trend.
I'd like to really emphasize that point. Especially in Germany, we have a huge opportunity here because the German economy is a lot of small and medium enterprises. And what's currently happening, especially in America, the data platforms and the software they provide and sell, it's for big corporations. And we here in Germany, we have a very unique situation that we can use as an opportunity because nobody is really building a lot of software for this market. So we have an opportunity here, combined especially with the cultural change aspect. Yes, a lot of those companies, they might be a little bit stuck in the past, but we have a huge opportunity here to sell in our own market. And I mean, it's not a really small market. If you look at other countries, like Israel, for example, they are the world leaders in optical recognition and data security. And it's a really small country. I mean, it's not a lot of inhabitants, it's not a lot of land, but they are the world leaders. Why are they the world leaders? Because they saw an opportunity to invest there, and okay, yes, they have an external threat, but nevertheless, they have seen the opportunity and seized it. And in Germany, we can do the same. We can see opportunities in this market, and we can seize the opportunity and grow from that, because it's a market that is not really serviced currently.
Speaking of opportunities, maybe you would like to make a point just after that. Rudi, I'd like to ask you to smash the piñata, please. And maybe you, speaking of opportunities, have some questions to the panel, because we'd like to open up the panel to questions from the audience. So there's the first question. Maybe you just make your point. Yeah. Rudi, smash the piñata, and I'll be handing the microphone.
Just a opportunity point. I think we have to differentiate in between B2C and B2B data models. I remember very well 3 or 4 years ago a panel discussion where a guy from the airport in Amsterdam, KLM and Google were on the stage. And whereas the airport of Amsterdam and KLM were talking about who owns the data. So now I stop. I think it makes no sense.
Come on. Go for it. Go, 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 go. That's right. Hit it hard.
Okay, hit it hard.
You have to smash it hard.
Ja.
Muss es runterfallen?
Es muss kaputt gehen.
Thank you for being hungover.
Perfect.
You still want to finish your point, though?
Yeah, it's difficult to come to the point again. So I was at B2C, so whereas the airport and the airline were really fighting about who owns the data, Google was sitting aside and was smiling because they have the data already, and that customer centricity. So really the focus on that C element, B2C needs, okay, I'm sitting here as a passenger. That was completely forgotten, I think, by many industry players. Coming back to your point, I think on the B2B area, because we are talking on opportunities, it's not too late for collaboration, but we really have to hurry up. So we really have to do so, and there are also so many industry politics we have to come over. And there is also one element where politics could support, but we really have to hurry up to do so. I think in B2B it's not too late for Europe. In B2C, I would not focus on that. So it's too late.
I don't have a concrete question, but I want to raise a point maybe to discuss. I'm also very worried about the speed, just the point you were making. However, isn't there also a huge opportunity in the fact that Europe is more measured, debating, and maybe even more focused on society? Because in the past, if you look at some of the large concepts, like the size of AI machine learning that's happening now, so industrialization, for example. So capitalism, you can look at America and it's business-driven capitalism. You can look at China and it's government-driven economy. And we here have the social capitalism. And that's a measured answer. And in AI, we have a problem like never before. And the Americans are doing it the economy way, the business way, and the Chinese are doing it the government way. And we could do it in a way that works for society. So have an AI that, for example, collects back our data or manages it for us or makes sure that we don't have anything bad exposed. That's the kind of opportunity that comes, I'm almost finished, with the kind of stuff that we did, for example, in energy, where we said your cars have to be a lot better than the cars in the US, and guess what? We're world leader in producing energy efficient cars, and except for Tesla, but yeah. You know what I mean.
Yes. I think it's a very valued point. One word you just used was a very important one, because you took the word could. So could is not do. And I completely agree, but I see also that society perception in a change. Yeah, we see it currently here with the climate, for example, which is a very currently European-driven initiative. And here I see elements where the society stands up to really say, okay, we want to change things. But coming to that social capital, I think we all have to do something. And if I see what initiatives are really launched, I'm not so sure And here, maybe again, the trap is the success from the past. I think there are many people still in a kind of comfort zone with the political system, with the economical system, and so on. And that's really a big trap for the speed we need.
A colleague of mine is often saying in Germany we have the Mamü Mama problem. Man müsste mal machen. Go out there and do it. I mean, if you see it, if you see something, go out there and do it.
But on the other hand, this is there's maybe some hope for us. So in Germany we have a strong thing with robotics. Not maybe strong, but there's something. There's Munich is building a hub for robotic stuff, and maybe we get in the industrial things with robotics and small-sized, medium-sized companies which doing assemblies. Maybe this is a point where we can have opportunities, a lot of opportunities, because we are strong in this area, and Chinese are they are coming, but not at this, not at the level as Germany or Europe or Italy, for example, is. The United States, they have some strong companies with robotics, but in a different way. So this is a good thing we have, and on the other hand, the EU tries to make something. I think it will take years to get at a competitive level as Chinese guys are. And for example, Israel, when they have strong companies, they have totally more access, for example, from the military. They get data from the military, so the startup companies can work with the data. And this is also an opportunity we could have here in the European countries, that startups can get closer to military or government organizations to get access to the data which is not public, and to make business models out of it. And what we need to do is to build strong companies that are able to compete against the other strong companies, because we are not, from an organizational point of view, we are not able to make it government driven. In China, yes, it is government driven, but we have really, really strong companies doing a lot of money. We have this in the US, and we need this totally in the European countries also. Bam.
Okay, last question maybe, and I think we're fine with adding just a little time for a last question and statements due to pinata smashing and alcohol testing, so feel free to shoot one last question.
Well, my question was to you, because you mentioned that companies have to decide how they want to compete in the area of artificial intelligence, and we can also chat afterwards. I don't mind, but my question would be like how the port of Hamburg needs to compete in this area, or how it wants to compete, except for getting rid of fax machines.
So we will we are doing on that, compete with collective intelligence of the ports. So we are not competing alone, because all of the ports around the world have the same situations. And we realize that and have gathered together to see what are the problems or the challenge area that we could work together. And we are doing in a situation that we are doing collaborations, seeing how we can win together. And because, for example, in the area of cybersecurities, every big port are attacked every second, and how we can really protect the securities of the port, the data that our customer has given to us in the best way. And this is where we cannot do it alone as a Hamburg, and we would like to make this competitive level. Not only that we are shining alone, because if Hamburg is shining alone, the supply chain would not work. And that's why we are thinking out of the silo, we are thinking horizontally, we are thinking end-to-end, and in supply chain services. And that is the way how we would survive. because at the end of the day, you as a consumers, you would like to get your goods transported from A to B, no matter what, which routes has been selected, from which company has been served, and that is actually, we just need to do our part in the best way.
Okay, that wraps it up, I think. So once more, many thanks to the panel, Phanthian, Nicolas, Thomas, Rudi, Victor, of course, and you. Well, enjoy a small break, and then we'll continue with the rest of the program.
This is awesome. We have a small holographic display. If no one sees this, this is a small holographic display. It shows some part of Hamburg with data Thomas provides. And if you want to see some cool thing, look at this holographic display. Thanks.